Hey, welcome back to Common Sense OT Security. Christmas Eve is coming up and, excuse me, Christmas Eve. No, New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is coming up. That is always a good time to look back at the outgoing year and ask ourselves what was noteworthy, certainly in respect to OT security in 2025. And certainly I would appreciate your thoughts on this question. Just drop your ideas in the comments below if you want. What do you think was the most important OT security event or thing that happened in 2025? So if you ask me, I know you asked me because otherwise you wouldn't watch the video. That was the Nozomi acquisition by Mitsubishi. That was not something I had expected, and that is certainly very important for our little field. And beyond that, I have to tell you, I don't see anything of importance. It was quite a quiet, maybe even boring year, because again, the hackers failed to deliver. So we didn't see any high-profile cyber physical attack. We didn't see cyber war. We didn't see noteworthy attacks on critical infrastructure, neither in the United States nor elsewhere. And that is my observation. So it just didn't happen. Let's just quickly look at some factoids around this. As you will remember, we saw in last June, we saw Operation Midnight Hammer, where the American Air Force bombarded the uranium enrichment facilities in Natanz. And that was probably one indicator that cyber war will not happen, will not take place, to quote the book from Thomas Ridd. It will not take place. So as it stands, Stuxnet is the only incident where where a cyber attack could legitimately labeled as cyber war. And that wasn't repeated, obviously. So the US used kinetic force against those sites. Why didn't they use another cyber strike? Just think about it. Well, probably, or obviously, somebody in the Pentagon thought, well, that's not a good idea. We'll just we'll use the big stuff just to make sure. And I mean, I had already contemplated on this fact a couple of months ago. In our YouTube channel, you find that recording from the webcast. What happened to cyber war? If you're interested in my expanded take on that. So to me, it just suggests, well, maybe cyber war, or what we have seen as far as cyber war is concerned, might just have been a one-off scenario, might just have been Stuxnet, and that's that. I still don't fully know the reason, but I think we could argue that today most people are aware of the fact that you can protect important stuff, critical installations, rather well, even against nation-state attackers. And I mean, just by considering that if you look at all the various incidents that had been discussed, like the minor stuff, the infiltrations against water facilities, etc., there was such a blatant lack of basic protection that this is not what we mean with sophisticated or noteworthy cyber physical attacks. So if you are stupid enough to put your PLCs on the public internet with no two-factor authentication or nothing, well, basically you are asking to be hacked. And that suggests to me, and again, that's the irony. For me, that's a positive message. And it almost looks like many in OT security have issues with this fact that we didn't see any substantial cyber physical attacks. It suggests to me that certainly protection is possible. OT security is possible, and you don't need your super defenders. You don't need the A-team guys. You just need to do the basics that everybody is familiar with. You don't need to do a full-scale implementation of IEC 62443. You just need to make sure that the basics are covered. And just one tactical piece of advice here: it tremendously boosts your security posture if you combine different types of security controls. Okay, so nothing of significance happened in as far as I know, in my opinion, as far as I have observed the landscape. And funny reason is this apparently also extends to the detection landscape. So just the other day, I had raised the question on LinkedIn: are there any numbers on how many actual cyber-physical attacks have been detected and probably thwarted by OT threat detection solutions in 2025? And I was actually, and honestly, I was expecting that at least some of the vendors, 157 last year or something like that, but that didn't happen. So the one thing that you know is that they usually, when prompted with such a question, they cite, confidentiality, etc. In my opinion, that's a bogus argument, because you always have the chance to sanitize the data and tell the community about an incident that is noteworthy and would move the needle. And I think the perfect example for that is the Triconix attack. As far as I know, we still don't know the exact identity of the victim in that case. We only know it's supposed to be somewhere in the Middle East, but we don't know which facility it actually was. Yet we still have a lot of details around that case. Some of those details even made public by Schneider Electric themselves, to their credit. And so certainly that was a huge help for the community as such. But that didn't happen in 2025. And so I was expecting some numbers, but I didn't get them. So to me, it still looks like, well, could it be that the number is zero? That the billions, many billions of alerts that those products have generated were all false positives? I don't know. I'm just I was hoping to get an answer to that question. And then since in that post here, or in the comments to that post, also it was pretty non-essential, so nobody came up with some evidence or something. So I just went ahead and asked the AI. I asked the AI. So do we have any evidence of, or is there publicly available information for these various OT threat detection products that they had actually detected real-world cyber-physical attacks? And the AI came back with this answer that you see here. No, there is no public evidence for that. So that is just not a thing. And in my opinion, that's surprising. So that leaves us with something like a big vacuum. I don't know why that is, but I think it is noteworthy as a non-event. And if you have followed my work, you also know that I believe the industry as such is processing this fact in a non-productive way. Because if you look at all those reports from the OT security companies, and you could extend that to IT, to those in IT who also focus somewhat on OT, you know what you're going to find in those reports. It's always going to get worse, and even in like a hockey stick manner. You have seen that many times. If you read those reports, it is always getting worse. And for some funny reason, this is never backed up by evidence. It's completely evidence free. And you know, the strategy that obviously most of those OT security companies have chosen to still make their argument, well, you know, it's about the threats and the targeting, and it's about the ransomware, and this is, I think you don't need to take a very close look at that. You don't have to spend hours in analysis here. It is so obvious how that argument diverts from fact-based evidence. Where, you know, it's just like with the Triconics attack. Oh, we have the evidence. So there was this. We have the forensic evidence, just like in the case of Stuxnet or in the case of the Ukraine attack. They don't have that, and instead they want to focus you on things like threats and the idea that potent hackers are targeting your industry, something that certainly is never backed up by any facts. And once more, I have to say, my prediction is this is not doing our case any good. So, because if that gap becomes too big, like, you know, the narrative from facts, at some point, the audience will simply stop listening. I pointed that out a couple of times earlier this year, for example, when discussing the waterfall threat report. And in many ways, this is so typical. So you see these graphs over and over again. It's always it's going to get so much worse. This is what they suggest, right? So this is this exponential development. And the other thing that is noteworthy here, with the waterfall report, I mentioned that also in my discussion. Let's go back to the YouTube channel. So there is another webcast where I talk about the waterfall report. There it is, 2 months ago. So the waterfall report is interesting because they claim, well, we present the evidence. We have all the references included in the report, and they are right. Problem is, if you actually go into the details, you cannot but disagree with them. So because my argument that I also made in the earlier webcast is what they present as OT attacks, without any question, are things like GPS jamming, and then some airliner diverted deliberately because they realize, ooh, there's jamming going on. It's not going to make our life easier. And by the way, if in case you don't know, this is not a safety issue. You can just totally destroy the airplane's GPS sensor. The airplane will not fall out of the sky, and it's still able to navigate. It's just that things will become more complex in today's airspace, where many waypoints are simply defined by GPS coordinates. So they are no longer defined by radio navigation aids. They're just randomly placed somewhere, and it becomes a little bit difficult to navigate then without using GPS. However, at the same time, all those airliners are constantly under radar surveillance, and the controller would be able to give them vectors, as it's called in the industry. So no safety risk here. No cyber physical, no OT systems have been compromised, and Waterfall still believes it's a good idea to include those examples as prime examples for OT attacks, which in my opinion doesn't make a lot of sense. And I would almost be inclined to think it doesn't make sense for most people. However, they don't read the full report. Right, so they are many people just stop after reading the headlines and see, oh, this is again what I have seen already. That's just another confirmation. And so for some reason my video just went off. I don't know if you can still hear me. Let's just check something here. Okay, it seems to be just my So sorry for the interruption, technical difficulties. Anyhow, my point is, obviously, many people just read the headline and that's it. And then you certainly miss all those nuances that might, in effect, actually counter the narrative. And that is what I've seen happen a couple of times. The other example for this is another thing that was touted by the vendor as so super important. That was the 2025 OT Security Financial Risk Report by Dragos. And I don't know why they are still promoting this piece, because it is actually, in my honest opinion, totally absurd and again not helping our cause, because if you really read the report and understand what they're saying here, how they have arrived at the data, you will say, oh, guys, that's nonsense, because the risk that they are trying to sell here, the 330 billion US dollars next year, that was derived by assuming a scenario that you would expect every 250 years, my friends. And again, I mentioned that in my previous webcast. To their credit, it's actually in the language here. That's in the language, a 1 to 250 tail scenario. Now, problem is, most people don't bother to look it up, what that actually means. If you do that, your idea would probably be similar to mine. Guys, this is completely irrelevant. In 250 years, we will no longer talk about PLCs, and I actually don't care, right? What could happen once every 250 years. So this is what has happened in our industry, and in my opinion, it's a simple result of the lack of actual cyber-physical incidents. And so again, that includes the redefinition of what an OT security incident would be. You remember companies like Dragos and others, and SANS very prominently, they suggest, well, everything with an operational impact, which I have to tell you, this is not why I have built up this whole space, OT security, and still I'm a happy participant. That's not my concern. You know, some IT system is compromised, company decides to deliberately shut down operations, and then somebody screams, oh, this is an OT security incident because we also are shutting down our physical production. No, that's not an OT security incident. So that is what I have observed over the last 12 months. And for me, the important question is, how long can they actually continue with this trend, with this narrative? Because it is becoming more obvious for everyone that there are, even if you would say there are not zero cyber-physical attacks, even though I don't know of any particular incident in 2025, the number is very, very low. It's not even 10, right? So if there is any kind of such attack, and at the same time, this narrative keeps to get blown up. So the risk is ever increasing, etc., and that at some point will backfire, and because especially decision makers will say, no, that's what are they even talking about? So in a nutshell, you could say the industry continues to sell fear, and their value proposition is, well, you just install our stuff and subscribe to our services, and then that will make you feel better. That is not a technical argument. That's just a very bizarre psychological argument. And now, if you look forward to 2026, my prediction is it's going to continue that way. So the hackers will still under-deliver. And in a way, let me be precise what I mean about that. They will under-deliver in respect to the investment that companies make in OT security products and services. And then somebody will certainly realize, well, it doesn't make sense from a business perspective. And therefore, I believe it would be good if we would see some narrative change, because that presently prevailing narrative cannot be sustained forever. It's going to collapse in itself. More and more people will say that they have been fooled. Because, I mean, if you hear for years, the ever-increasing threat and the nation states are targeting your industry, but nothing happens other than those 3 PLCs got hacked that you were stupid enough to put on the public internet without any protection. So then you will start to question that narrative. So that is, looking back, what I see as important. And looking forward, that it's going, unfortunately, I predict it's going to stay that way in 2026. The hackers will continue to be lazy. They will focus on ransomware. And ransomware, as we have seen it so far, doesn't affect OT. If you want to drag OT in there in your marketing collateral, good luck with that. Because if no OT system is compromised, Now, what difference would it make if you had beefed up your OT security in that particular scenario? It wouldn't have made any difference. And the other thing, turning to more positive outlooks here, the other prediction that I have is that 2026 will be the year where AI finally will make an impact in OT security and in OT at large. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is very simple. So we have arrived at a stage where many people, just by using Google and things like ChatGPT, have access to AI and have experienced what it can look like, what it can, what it cannot do for you. And it is certainly, in many respects, not a complete banger, but for other use cases, it actually is. So, and if you think about how will this impact OT and OT security, in my opinion, the answer is very simple. So this year, we have seen for the first time a valid technological approach or architecture, if you will, that allows you to process your local data sets with AI. That makes a huge difference. Because for use cases like OT security, where you're not really interested about the latest data on the public internet, you're interested about analyzing your OT infrastructure. And that data, hopefully, if you're lucky, isn't on the internet. It's on your database server in a tool such as OTBase. And if you consider you would be able to process and analyze this data set with AI, there are a lot of interesting use cases that open up. So that is something that changed also in 2025 with the technology that is called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP as an acronym, that allows you to pull local data into an AI reasoning machine or platform, okay? And now I know what you're thinking, well, but I still don't want to expose my super confidential local OT data to something like ChatGPT. I hear you, you're absolutely right, you should not, but you don't have to, because this year, okay, 2025, we also saw the emergence of local language models. And if you can combine that, that is creating a whole new scenario, because all your confidentiality concerns just go out of the window, right? So, because you don't expose any of that confidential local data to a public AI platform such as ChatGPT. It's all processed locally in your data center. And that is something that you're going to see in OTBase in 2026 that we're going to exploit. And I believe it will change the game for a fundamental reason. So if you take a closer look of what we are doing in OTBase, you will see, it's not just a table of IP addresses that is automatically detected, and then you see make and model and serial number. No, the big benefit in the OT-based data model is that it is context rich. That means it not just contains those IP addresses, make and model, but it also contains process function. It contains process interdependency, system interdependency, criticality, vulnerability, and all those different dimensions. And that ultimately forms a rich body of knowledge as opposed to data. And that body of knowledge can be actually, in many ways, be better analyzed and put to work with AI than with conventional user interfaces or APIs. And this is why I think this is going to be a game changer, because you will be able to let the AI work on your condensed OT infrastructure knowledge, which includes OT security, but it also includes other use cases such as business continuity management, etc. So that is what you're going to see from our side. I don't know what the other vendors are working on. I would imagine that at this point in time, everybody is working on some AI product, and we will see what they look like. But I can already tell you what we are doing, what you're going to see in OT base rather soon. That is this an AI add-on that allows you to automatically generate reports. It allows you to do a chat rather than using the OT-based inventory UI if you don't want to, or if you want to make the knowledge available to users who have no desire to learn that UI, then you will be able to do that. And I'm very confident that at some point in time, you will also be able just to generate your risk assessments, and they will be detail rich, my friends. So they will be very precise and verifiable. Anyhow, so basically that's it. So, and again, in closing, I would say, well, not a lot happened this year, and that's a good thing. Just imagine we would need to talk about another cyber war event or something, or huge attack on critical infrastructure. That didn't happen, and I like it. Let's just hope it stays that way for quite a while. And with that, I wish you a happy new year. Bye-bye.